I know from personal experience how stressful the hours before an exam can be. So that's why today I'm going to be talking about some steps that you can take towards staying calm and making the best out of those 24 hours that you have left. Oftentimes we focus on the things that we don't know, but the first step for you is to focus on the things that you do know. Throughout the semester, you went to class, you did homework. So there's a lot of stuff that you do know for this exam. So give yourself some credit for that. The second step is to not overwhelm yourself. And I know what you might be thinking. Well, I only have 24 hours left until the exam. But it's important for you to pace yourself. This is going to help you retain the information better, and it's going to help you stay motivated throughout the 24 hours that you have left. Now let's hear some of the ways that you can study throughout these 24 hours.
I know life can be crazy. Juggling school, work, extracurricular, family, and friends, it's hard. But when there's an important test coming up, it's time for us to sit down and really decide on what our priorities are, what can stay and what can go. Look over your schedule between now and that final and clear it as much as you can. If you've got work the next day, try and communicate the importance of this test and see if you can reschedule your shift. If you've got time set aside to eat lunch with your friends, well, it's okay to take this time to study instead. And I know it's a bummer to miss that meeting or an event for that club that you're in, but your degree comes first. You've got this. Maybe you can't reschedule all of your commitments, but hopefully you've at least freed up some time. Now, let's put it to good use.
In the time that you have left, prioritize what you need to study and what you need to focus on. But how do you know what's important from class? A good place to start is to look at your own midterms. Look through the problems that you missed the first time around and jot down the concepts from those problems. Then go back to your notes and textbooks and focus specifically on those concepts that you had trouble with. Another good place to look at is your end of chapter questions from your textbooks. Your professors chose those textbooks for a reason, so it's likely that those questions or something similar will probably also appear on your final exam. The key point is you don't want to study for all of your materials from class from day one. That can be really overwhelming and is a really ineffective use of time, which brings us to our next tip.
Don't waste your time on things you already know. Normally, when I start studying for the final, I like to have every assignment done. That way, I don't have to worry about them. But of course, if you only have 24 hours to study, that shouldn't be your priority. I always start my final study session by skimming over the concepts that were covered in class, followed by some exercises at the end of each chapter. But writing every exercise down can take a lot of time. So what you might want to do is think about the steps that you were to take if you were to write them down. If you were able to visualize the problem and make sense of it, then you shouldn't waste any extra time. If you're not able to do so, then maybe it's time to write some of the steps down. That way, you are able to cover a lot of the exercises and concepts in a very short amount of time.
If you have multiple chapters that you need to study for this exam, don't just cram them one by one. It might seem like a good idea to spend an hour on each chapter just to get it over with, but then you're relying on that single hour-long study session to last you all the way until tomorrow, and we know how well that works. Sometimes I walk out of a lecture and I've already forgotten what we talked about. Instead, we need to space out our study sessions and revisit the material multiple times throughout the day. During each study session, visit a little bit of material from every chapter. That way you're always learning a bit of everything. And it's important to give yourself breaks in between these study sessions. I know that sounds counterintuitive. After all, we're on a time limit here. But trust me, building memories is like gluing things together, and you have to have time for the glue to dry. This technique is effective for 3 reasons. First of all, we know that having a single exposure to something doesn't build a long-lasting memory. We need to have multiple exposures with breaks in between them. Spaced repetition systems are designed around this fact. It's just that in this case, we're spacing them throughout a single day instead of over a week. Secondly, the questions on your exam will probably be in a random order, and it's very tricky to switch gears between questions. But by studying a bit of material from every chapter during your study sessions, you can train yourself to feel comfortable switching between topics. It's important that the way you study matches the way the exam will be delivered. And thirdly, even if you run out of time or you're just too tired to keep studying, well, at least you got to see a little bit of everything instead of cramming some chapters and totally missing the others.
And last but not least, get a good night's rest. Although it may be tempting to stay up all night, being tired will still hurt your performance on the test. So get a good night's rest. Good luck on all of your final exams.